So I'm doing the authenticity thing again. And I actually had a really interesting interaction with my daughter. So my daughter has a friend whose birthday is coming up, and my daughter had $20 in cash. And she said she wanted to go to the mall to buy a present for her friend. And it got me thinking because this is something that happened with my ex, where my ex would buy little things for the friends of our kids when it was their birthday. And I get she was being polite, but I never really thought that that was something that needed to be done. Not that I complained, but I just thought a birthday card should be enough, especially because I'm taking the kids to the birthday party. So why should they have a present? Um, but this was a funny way of reinstating my authenticity and even seeing how my daughter plays out, because I told my daughter, if you're going to buy a present for your friend, you're going to use your money because you have $20. So you need to get a gift that is up to $20 if you're going to do that. And she said no. She didn't want to do it. I guess she wanted to keep her money. So I sat there and I thought, okay, my daughter's being a little selfish. But there's nothing wrong with that. Because if that's who she is, if she wants to keep her $20, then she can keep her $20. And then I thought about it and I said, well, I'm not going to necessarily buy a gift because I have to pay for everything else. But my kids need new clothes, so I need to put money on clothes and not on their friend's birthday present. But I made a deal. I said, if you can get the present at Five Below, then I'll buy it because it's Five Below. And she found a present, so I bought it. So that interaction basically just claims two forms of authenticity. I figured out what I feel and what I think is true to my nature. And my daughter, thought about it and she thought about how she is as a person. And again, there's nothing bad about us wanting to be selfish because everybody says, oh, we should be a community, we should help each other. And I get that. But if I don't want to spend my money on somebody else because it's my family, then I shouldn't have to. And I shouldn't be pressured into doing that. Because there's always these articles about, is it appropriate to do this with someone else's kids or whatever. Um, and it was just also another way of me claiming authenticity because I just used to let my ex deal with stuff like that. I would get a birthday card, or I'd tell her just get a birthday card, and she would go and find like a little, either a book or like a little trinket. And I just thought, you don't have to go that far. A card is enough. But that's what happened. But the reason I say this, because it includes my kids, is the one of the writers from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and this is going to tie into authenticity, expressed regret for casting Walter Jones as the Black Ranger. And I think her name is Tui Trang as Trini, the Yellow Ranger. Basically, I forget, he or she felt bad about a black man being the Black Ranger and a yellow woman being the Yellow Ranger. And what I found funny when I went through the comments is that if you grew up on the Power Rangers, nobody cared. We were distracted by the giant dinosaurs and the lasers and the fighting and the colors and the flashing lights and the poses. We didn't care who the color was or who represented the color, especially since technically Walter Jones is one of the best Rangers in general. So it didn't really matter that it was a black man playing a black ranger. Um, and just as a fun fact, when the three actors, and Austin St. John is the third one, when they left the production and were recast, or replaced, not really recast, the Yellow Ranger became a black woman. So it really had nothing to do with race. But the people in the comments that were making a big fuss about it, it made me realize, unless we teach our kids and our youth to not care about that, or we teach them to be extra political, it's not gonna matter. It really isn't. And I've shown my kids the Power Rangers. They've never asked, oh, why was the black guy the Black Ranger? In fact, they thought it was cringy, so, they're thinking about something else entirely. And that's just something that I wanted to point out, because if you want to be authentic and you want to say, hey, back in the 90s, I felt bad making a black man the Black Ranger, well, you got to look at other examples. Did we complain when in Turbo the Red Ranger was a black guy? Did we complain? And that's a big step, just to be a fanatic right here. When Tommy Oliver, when Jason David Frank left Power Rangers in the Turbo season, whatever you want to call it, that was a big deal. Whoever was going to replace Tommy was going to face scrutiny no matter what. So, I mean, and to make him a black man replace Jason David Frank? I mean, he was a good ranger anyway, and he was a good actor, so it didn't really matter. But, I'm pretty sure that writer's room, oh my god, Tommy has to go. Who do we replace him with? A black man? Like, I'm pretty sure that's how it went. Or that somebody might have had a concern about that. So, I just want to point out, unless we bring it up, right, we need to bring up everything. You can't bring up little pocketed examples. If you want to talk about your experience, you can talk about your experience, but your experience is only going to have so much weight to it. And we are nothing but what we teach our youth. I'm particularly not teaching my kids about anything related to their race or anything. They know that I'm part Latin, so they need to start understanding Spanish, and I am going to start giving them some more Latin influence, but for the most part, nobody cared. And when it comes to being authentic, nobody's more authentic than children, because they're literally the clean slate. They're the cleanest slate they could ever be. And it's not until we as adults and, people in leadership and power, it's not until we fuck up that our children get affected. So it's just interesting to say that as I stand here in front of trees, because I prefer to be in front of trees. This is my favorite hoodie. I will wear this hoodie as much as I can before I need to wash it. And that's me being authentic, right? So we need to stop worrying about stuff, because a lot of it doesn't matter. A lot of it does not matter. My God. And I just want to say, I love the Power Rangers. The show got a little weird when Walter Jones and Tui Trang and Austin St. John left. Johnny Young Bosch, great replacement, so I'm cool with that. All the actors were good, but when Rocky came along and became the new Red Ranger, like, he had to be second in command. I don't want to use the word alpha or beta, but he came off more beta compared to Tommy, and that makes sense writing wise, because you couldn't have Jason and Tommy in the same area. If Power Rangers was not geared towards children, then Tommy and Jason would be like co-captains that always fight with each other, but they still realize what needs to be done. Think about it like Shane and Rick from Walking Dead. I don't know who would necessarily be who, but one of them would, you know, when Shane opens the barn and they find out Herschel's been keeping all the zombies because he didn't want to kill them, and then Shane just starts murdering all of them. Yeah, that would be Tommy and Jason. They would have that type of conflict in Power Rangers if you made it very gritty and very adult like and you didn't cater it towards 5-year-olds. So and if I can't talk to you about Power Rangers because this is me being authentic, then you need to get away from me because this is who I am. And if you try to hire me, just remember that this is part of my personality and I have to bring this where I am. So, authenticity. Sometimes it's not about being yourself. Sometimes authenticity is about the things you don't put in front of people. And a lot of us think that sometimes those are negative things that we don't put in front of people. And that's true, right? We don't want people to see us being lazy and sloppy and depressed. But people get that way. It's only a matter of who can take how much of it. And unfortunately, we all have different thresholds. I I hit my threshold, and that's what messed up my life, and I take accountability for that. Anyway, accept your eccentricities.